Welcome back to Rapid MMA. I'm your host Tyler Matlock, and today we are going over the main card for UFC 191, Johnson versus Dodson 2, taking place tomorrow night on pay-per-view. I know we usually go over the entire card, but due to time constraints, I'm able to do the main card only. So let's get started. Paige VanZant versus Alex Chambers. This is a weird matchup as far as rankings are concerned. Obviously, Paige ranked number 7, Chambers is unranked, and Paige is on a 3-fight win streak, 2 in the UFC. Chambers won a recent bout, although she did get dominated for 3 rounds before pulling off an armbar submission. I'm not sure what angle the UFC matchmakers are going for. Is it to give Paige a winnable fight to gain star power, or is it to challenge Paige with someone who's technically sound but also has heart to handle the pressure of Paige? Either way, UFC is trying to build the women's strawweight division, and they already have a lot of draw power, so let me start by saying I do think Paige will win. I love her style, constant pressure. I think it'd be best if she keeps Chambers against the fence, working dirty boxing, pressuring her, and trying to wear her out. I think if Paige wants to keep her win streak and avoid any possibility of a loss, she'd keep off the ground though. Chambers is no joke on the ground, and I think she's pretty underrated as far as her submission game is concerned. If the opportunity is there, especially early, to tie up a submission, she's going to take it. And we don't know enough about Paige's ground game to be confident that she can defend against a technical submission artist like Alex Chambers. Be lenient with my terminology here, because we are talking about the women's strawweight division. Obviously, it's still developing, and Chambers is very good on the ground compared to a lot in her division. I think the question will be, how will Paige do off her back and in dominant top position, avoiding getting caught in something silly? For Chambers, she's 36 years old. I don't see Chambers adding much to her game, even though she's trained at ATT this camp. I see this fight going in Paige's favor, wearing out Chambers with her high pressure and her high pace, securing a 3rd round TKO victory. Moving on, we have Jan Blachowicz versus Corey Anderson. I see a lot of people going with Jan for this fight, and it makes sense because he's a fairly good counter striker. We have a lot to learn about Corey Anderson on top of that, so the decision makes sense. But I'm going to go against the popular vote in this one. I like the way Anderson looked against Vellante despite the leg kicks. The commentary sort of overshadowed the fact that Anderson had very good boxing essentials that Vellante wasn't defending. The constant jab and the straight rights, counter left hooks were, in my opinion, the story of that fight. Of course, the leg kicks impeded his movement, and Vellante was able to counter and win in the 3rd round, but Corey is young, he's improving, and he's taking the risks to develop his game. Jan is a hard hitter, and he keeps a slower tactical pace. I think this will be a staring contest with Blachowicz missing a lot of looping counters. I'm going to go with Corey Anderson for this one via decision. Next up is Anthony Johnson versus Jimi Manuwa. We should all know what these fighters bring to the table. Here's what I make of this. Jimmy will be looking to defend the takedown, because he knows that's not his strong suit. If Johnson level changes and maybe goes for a few takedowns, he'll have Jimmy questioning Johnson's patterns and body movement. Jimmy is obviously seasoned, but he'll be open for counters if he drops his hands, and we know what Johnson's power looks like. If his hands touch cleanly on Jimmy's head, it's lights out. I think Manuwa could take this to the scorecards if he isn't too obvious in his reactions to Johnson's offense. I think we'll have to have a small feeling out process in the beginning, and it'll probably lead to a few grappling exchanges and a nice back and forth on the feet. But I think in the 2nd round, Johnson will capitalize with his striking and knock Jimmy out. Just think it's inevitable. Nothing surprising in my choice here, as most people are taking Johnson by TKO or KO too. But it's a great opportunity for Manuwa. I'm going to go with Anthony Johnson TKO in the 2nd round. Next up, we have Andrei Arlovski versus Frank Mir. And I counted Frank Mir out the last time he fought, and I had a rude awakening. But can you blame me? 4 losses in a row with 1 win over Bigfoot Silva. I'm listening now, Frank Mir. I'm also watching his fights much more closely. I hate thinking about how heavyweight fights will play out because it's difficult to say anyway. So let's try to do our best, think this through, even though we'll probably see something bizarre happen either way. Mir can look at this fight a few ways. Attempt to counter Arlovski as he's coming in with his strikes, and if he tries to clinch, tie him up and use Frank Mir's strength to push Arlovski against the fence. Arlovski did this in the fight against Brendan Schaub. Number 2, impose a striking game on Arlovski with effective footwork and feints similar to Todd Duffy, and make Arlovski feel the power. Number 3, get the fight to the mat and do what he does best. Mir has all the opportunities available to him, and he's definitely capable of executing them. Arlovski, like Mir, needs to avoid the heavy strikes. That must be pretty obvious, but Arlovski needs to keep a steady but not exhausting pace. Although he is the lighter fighter and maybe has stamina to his advantage, he can't tie up with Mir and exhaust himself, pushing his weight around. Stick and move using kicks to gauge distance is the key. Hands up, obviously. Picking apart Mir, avoiding counters and clinches. With that brief summary, I think this fight goes the distance. I know I'm insane, leave a comment telling me how stupid I am, but imagine that both these fighters stand around looking at each other. This is a monumental fight and both need to play it smart, so they'll be reading each other's movements at least for most, if not all, the first round. I think as the fight progresses, they'll have great exchanges, probably rocking each other here and there. I've counted out Mir before, and although in my heart I really want Arlovski to win and get the title shot, I feel Mir has more ways to win this fight. Best of luck to both guys. Frank Mir via split decision. Finally, we have Demetrious Johnson versus John Dodson. I love the first fight, and I think this next fight is going to be great. Let's take a look at the advantages John Dodson has first. The most obvious thing to note is he's a powerful southpaw striker who looks to his opponent's footwork and movement to find his openings for the counter. He'll pressure forward here and there, offering his own offense with jab feints and follow-up straight left or left uppercut, keeping the distance gauged as well with kicks. He's very aware of the range between himself and his opponent. He loves it when his opponent moves linear, straight back, straight forward, following them exactly in the patterns he moves. Since Dodson allows his opponents to pressure him to pressure him, he baits them in circles, waiting for the right opportunity to land his counter. This is very apparent in their first meetup. What Demetrious Johnson needs to do and be aware of is his own movement. He needs to move more laterally, quit following his opponents, moving straight forward and recklessly chasing them at times. He also did some weird things in the pocket, like hesitating on throwing a kick and standing completely square to Dodson. This can't happen. That's exactly how he got dropped. If he wants to switch stances, he has to do it out of range or when the opportunity is clear, otherwise he'll get clipped. Johnson has to circle away from his opponent after throwing combos, keep fighting stance, and his hands up. Simple fixes in his game that he wasn't doing in the first fight. More feints and setups from Johnson will be key in this fight, along with the footwork to cut off the cage, not allowing Dodson to circle and create angles. I think Johnson does what he did in the previous outing with Dodson, but hopefully with more awareness on Dodson's movement and keeping an eye on his own footwork and making sure he doesn't fall out of position. He also should time takedowns more effectively by feinting and drawing in Dodson's counters, very similar to how GSP secured his takedowns. More output from Dodson is expected, and I think this fight will be higher paced than their previous meeting. I think this goes all 5 rounds again, with Johnson holding a more clear-cut upper hand. Leg kicks, takedowns, clinch work, and clean strikes will win him this fight. So not saying Dodson won't drop him, but I just don't see him winning unless it's just a clean knockout. So this will be a scorecard battle. I think Johnson will take it via unanimous decision. Thank you guys for watching. Tell me if you like or dislike my picks down in the comment below. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. If not, there's always the downvote as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.